Hey everyone, I hope that you are doing well. We are continuing our journey through 4th edition as though it was the latest edition of the game. The last time when I was, my last video that I did, I was talking about how I had been approaching it as though 4th edition had just been released, but as though it was released at the time it was released in 2008. And I realized that I was kind of missing an opportunity here. Really what I want to do is treat 4th edition as though it was released today. And so people coming into it are people who have played 3rd edition and 2nd edition and 5th edition and even 5th edition 2024. So so that doesn't necessarily impact this video or some of the videos that we're doing, but going forward, I will use that. So if I'm doing some comparisons, I will take a look at some of the more recent editions of the game and see how they would flow into 4th edition. So just something that well, I'll keep in mind going forward. But for this video, we're going to create some characters. And so I've been trying to create a mix of characters from the Player's Handbook, sticking to the Player's Handbook, because that's, in our world, that's the only book that has been released so far. So naturally, that's what we got to go with. And I've been trying to do cover all the different bases. I realize that probably what I'm trying to do here is create a party of characters that I can then use when I'm doing demos of some of the things in the book. So eventually I kind of haven't really covered how to play the game in the sense of combat and the tactical movement and all those sorts of things. So I'm going to try to do that as I build out this party. I will then use these characters in those demos, and all these character sheets eventually will be on my website so that people can download them and you can follow along as I do the demos, and you can see all the different decisions that we're making using these characters. And hopefully, if you're new to 4th edition, you can reference the characters that we're using and observe kind of how it all comes into play. So that was not necessarily my intention as I started creating characters, but that is, I think, where I'm going to go. So we have a Dragonborn fighter, we have a dwarf rogue, and we have a tiefling paladin. Is the 3 characters. So we've covered really 2 defenders and a striker as far as the roles that we have. Now we're trying to create a well-rounded party. So the next role that I want to fill is that of a controller, which is a wizard. So there's actually only the one controller in the Player's Handbook. So, and that is a wizard. And so that is what we are going to create for today. And I was trying to figure out what the best race would be to use, also trying to mix that up a little bit. And it occurred to me that Eladrin would be a good fit because they have some of the key abilities that we would want for a wizard. And it is a race that is new to the core books for 4th edition. And it's one that kind of went away after 4th edition. So it's something that definitely is really special to this edition of the game. So that's what we're going to use. So we will jump into that and start building our Eladrin Wizard. And we'll go through it step by step and see what we can learn along the way. So before we get into that, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the description for other ways that you can support the channel. If you want to get early access to videos, you can subscribe or become a member of the channel and you'll get early access to the videos as I upload them. And if you want access to the Discord server, you can head over to Ko-fi and you can become a member there to get you access to the Discord server. But let's jump into this and start looking at our Eladrin Wizard and how we want to create this character. So as with the last few, the first character that I had done, I had actually created it in advance and then was just kind of going through the process. Since then, I've been creating them in real time. So I know what I want to create. I want to create this Eladrin Wizard. I took a couple peeks at some of the things to help streamline a little bit of the decision making, but for the most part, we are going to be doing this together in real time here. So we are in chapter 2 on the character creation section, and you can see that there is a nice step-by-step steps 1 through 9 on how to create a character. And if you watch the other ones, you know I don't necessarily go in order. I skip around a little bit because I kind of want to try to keep from flipping around between the pages as much as I can. And some of these things, the information that you get is actually in a prior section that you are already in. And so it doesn't seem to make sense to me to jump around and go back and forth between them. So I kind of go a little bit out of sequence, but you can certainly follow this order. It works perfectly fine for anything out there. So, but let's go ahead and get started. We'll take a look at our Eladrin and we're going to, first of all, we'll start writing everything down here. I don't have a name. I had been coming up with name. I think maybe only one of these I put a name out there, or maybe the other ones I put a name afterwards. I think I'm going to hold off on doing that because I really want to leave a lot of the more personal stuff about the character to each individual. So I will probably eventually give them names when I start using them in demos. But if you want to download these characters and use them for yourselves, I don't want to dictate to you what the character is. You can come up with a lot of those personal traits yourself. So I'll leave that stuff blank. So level 1 character, this is going to be a wizard. No Paragon Path, no Epic Destiny. Total XP is 0. The race is going to be Eladrin. And if we look at our Eladrin, we can see, again, I'm not going to worry about the height and weight. I'll skip right here because the next thing we have is size, which is medium. So I will go ahead and just put the M to indicate it is medium. Age, gender, height, weight, alignment, all those things are things that you can work on as if you want to use this character for yourself. We get a bonus to dexterity and intelligence. So for those, I'm going to go ahead and put our +2 to dexterity and our +2 to intelligence. Those are just my placeholders so that I know later on when I go to actually assign the ability scores, I will remember that I have a +2 bonus for those things coming from my race. You can also put that down here on the character sheet. There is a block here specifically for ability score bonuses that you can write in if you want to. I just prefer to do it that way. Speed is going to be 6, so we'll come up here to our base speed and put in a 6. And excuse me, I forgot to turn on my mouse highlighter, so I will do that right now so we can all see what I'm doing here. And then we have low light vision, and that will be one of our racial features, low light vision. And as always, I like to put in our page numbers. This is page 38 of the Player's Handbook. All right, languages, Common and Elven. And we got a lot of racial features here for the Eladrin. So it's a very, very nice character, fun character play because there's a lot that goes into it. So first thing is the Eladrin education. Eladrin education. Ironically, I didn't spell education correctly. There it is. So we gain training in 1 additional skill selected from the skill list in Chapter 5. So we'll circle back to that one when we actually select the skills, which will come a little bit later when we talk about our class. So, but that's good. We'll get another one and we'll talk through that. Then we have Eladrin Will. And that is going to give us a +1 bonus to our will defense. So let me go ahead and put that in here. It's a +1 bonus there from our class for the Eladrin Will. In addition, we get a +5 bonus to saving throws against charm effects. So that's not one that we can put directly on the character sheet. That is something that only comes into play when you someone is trying to charm you. How you put that on the character sheet is really kind of up to you because you got to kind of remember that. So that's where having the page number comes in because you can have that page open and reference that stuff fairly quickly so you don't forget it during the middle of the game. Next, we have the Fey origin. And this is one that, again, it'll come up. There's not really a mechanic to this, but there are elements of the game where something might be attacking someone differently if they are a Fey or something happens. And so you just got to remember that your character is of Fey origin. So that would come into play in those cases. Next, we have trance. This one's helpful because you, for your extended rests, you need to spend 4 hours in this state to gain the same benefits that other races gain from taking a 6-hour extended rest. So you can essentially get your extended rests in less time. That's helpful because if you're putting on watches during the night, then you, as the Eladrin, you can have 2 fewer hours of sleep that you need in order to get all the benefits of your rest, and that means that's 2 hours that you could be on watch while other people in the party are resting. And then while in the trance, you are fully aware of your surroundings and notice approaching enemies and others as normal. So even better. So you are, so even while you're in that trance, you are still even more aware than you would be otherwise. So the really, really helpful one there if you're doing the type of adventure where you're going to have a lot of watches and things like that you got to be mindful of. And then finally, we have Fey Step, and that is the power that is described here. And I actually don't usually put those when they're the powers. I don't usually put them on the character sheet there. I put them where they belong. So this is an encounter power, and it uses your move action. So we'll go over here to our encounter power, and we'll put Fey Step here. And I don't think I did this with the last character. Is I put the type of action that it is as a reminder for myself, so that I when I go to use it, because lots of times you tend to think that it's a everything is a standard action, and then you do something, and then you waste a turn basically, because you're not getting the full use of all the different actions you have. So this one is a move action, so you can do the Fey Step, which allows you to teleport up to 5 squares, and then you still have a standard action and a minor action that you can use. So that's pretty nice. And that is the stuff that we get for our for our Eladrin. Oh, I kind of skipped over. I don't know how I mentioned the skills, I think, but then I skipped over it. We are trained, we get a +2 in Arcana in History. So sorry, I missed that. So that's a 2 for Arcana and a 2 for History. So sorry, I overlooked that as I was running on the list. But I think I got everything else from our Eladrin, and we've captured all of that on the character sheet, and we can go back to our character creation. All right, so we have our race is our Eladrin. We've got that stuff captured on the character sheet. Now we can go ahead and choose our class. So let's take a look at the class. And our class is going to be a wizard. And a wizard is a controller. There's not a place on the character sheet for the role. It is just something to help you make sure that you've got a well-rounded party if that's something that you're after. Power source is arcane. And our key abilities are intelligence, wisdom, and dexterity. So we get a bonus for our intelligence, and we get a bonus to our dexterity. We don't have a bonus to wisdom, but those two things will help us a lot as we're putting this character together once we assign our ability scores. Next thing, armor proficiencies. Not a lot of armor and weapons. As a wizard, you're mostly going to be staying away from the tough part of the battle, off on the fringes, and you're going to be using an implement of some sort to cast your spells. You are proficient with a dagger and a quarterstaff if you do want to have something, so that we can keep that in mind as we're building out the character, selecting our equipment. Our implements, orbs, staffs, and wands. So there will be something coming up in a second that we will see that kind of important as far as which implement we would like to use for our wizard. So we'll talk about that in just a minute when we flip over to the next page. We get a bonus to defense, which is a +2 to will. So let me do that, and we will get a +2 to will. And sorry, I put the other one in the wrong place. That was our we got a +2 to will, +1 to will from being an Eladrin, and I put it in the class thing. So that actually goes in the wrong place. I don't see a place actually for the race, to have it for the race. So I'll put the 1 from the Eladrin over in miscellaneous, and then our +2 to will that we have here from our class will go down there. So we're at a 3 for our will. And then our hit points at first level are going to be 10 plus our constitution score. So our hit points here, we're going to put a 10 plus. We don't know what our constitution score is yet, but we know that it'll be 10 plus whatever that is. And then our surges per day is 6 plus our constitution modifier. So we'll do a 6 plus there. So maximum hit points is always your constitution score plus some value that comes from your class. And surges per day is always your constitution modifier plus some value that comes from your class. So I'll just make a note of those things here. And when we actually assign the ability scores, then we will know what those values are, and we can do the math. And then we have trained skills. We are trained in Arcana, so I will go ahead and put a 5 for that, because you get a +5 for the skills that you're trained in. And we choose 3 more from this list. So Arcana we already have, Diplomacy, Dungeoneering, History, Insight, Nature, and Religion. So let's see, we get to choose 3. We have a +2 to History, and we already are trained in Arcana with the +2 as well from being an Eladrin. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of those into History, so that way we'll get a really good History score. And I think Insight and Diplomacy, I think, are the 2 that I'm going to go with. So we'll do a +5, and then we'll do History, and then we will do Insight. So that's our 3. So we get Arcana, and then we get those other 3. Now, if you remember just a moment ago when we were looking at our Eladrin, we have our, and where is it? It is, Eladrin Education. You gain training in one additional skill selected from the skill list in Chapter 5. So we get to choose another skill from the skill list in Chapter 5. So let's take a look at that. And this is the list of skills. We can't be double trained in something, so we need to choose one that would make sense for us based on what we want the character to do, but we can't actually be double trained in something we're already trained in. We're already trained in Arcana. That would be a logical one as a wizard. We already are trained in diplomacy. Heal could be a good one. We already trained in intelligence. Religion would be another one that's based on intelligence, so that could come in handy. I feel like perception would be a good one. I think I want to go with perception, even though religion is more for your clerics and your paladins and stuff. So I'm going to go and we'll get trained in perception. So that is our extra skill that we get for our Eladrin Education feature that we have. So that's so I'm skipping around a little bit there to get that one, but that's because we wanted to make sure we don't forget about that. And then we've done the rest of our skills. Now we have a couple build options and a couple class features. So there's 2 build options for wizard, a control wizard and a war wizard. And as I always remind everybody, these are optional. You don't have to pick one of these. This is just if you're wanting to do a quick build for a character, it makes the decisions for you, and you can kind of just see what the different focuses are for that type of character. And you just go out and decide, okay, I want to be a control wizard. That sounds cool to me. I'm just going to make these decisions, and boom, I've got my character. I don't have to spend a lot of time making the decisions. Same with the war wizard. But if you want to make your own decisions, as we're going to do, then you can just completely ignore that and just make your own decision. You could also start with these and say, well, that's a good start, but I have a couple other ideas, and make some alterations to what it is. They're just really tools to help you get an idea for the types of things you could do with this character, and a starting point if you're trying to make a character really fast. So that's the idea with those. But we're going to skip both of those because we're not going to actually follow that. We're going to make our own decisions. Then we get into the implements. Now, this is where it gets interesting, is that, remember, we are proficient in orbs, staffs, or wands. And so what we basically do is choose which implement we want to be the masters of. So that's one of our features, is Arcane Implement Mastery. So we decide which implement we want to master, and then we get some additional things that we can do based on that particular implement. So if we have an orb, then we want to have mastered the orbs, then we have an orb of imposition, and then once per encounter as a free action, you can use the orb to gain one of the following 2 effects, and then lists off what the 2 effects are. Same if we want to have a staff mastery, then we carry a staff, and then the staff of defense grants you a +1 bonus to your armor class. And then once per encounter as an immediate interrupt, you gain a bonus to defense against 1 attack equal to your constitution. And then the wand of accuracy, once per encounter as a free action, you gain a bonus to a single attack roll equal to your dexterity modifier, and you must wield your wand when you make the attack. So that's the choices we have. We have to decide which of the implements we want to focus on. I think what I'm going to do is I want to do the wand of accuracy. So that's where my focus is going to be. So I'm going to write that down. I guess I'll put wand of accuracy. I'll just put in parentheses that, just so I know what that is. And of course, we will put our page reference so that we can look up what that means when we're in the middle of the game and we see this reference and we're like, I don't know what that is. So, but that's essentially what we're going to get. It allows us to get a bonus to our attacks when we use our wand. Next, we have cantrips. So I won't write cantrip as a class feature, because what we have here is we have these 4 different cantrips that we get at first level. And we can, as a cantrip, they are at-will powers that we can use as much as we want during the game. Just like a cantrip, if you're coming from another edition of the game, you'd be familiar with what a cantrip is. You just can use it whenever you want, and that's what we're going to do. So we have Ghost Sound, and Light, Mage Hand, and then for extra fun, while we're on a video recording it live, I get to spell prestidigitation. Prestidigitation. How'd I do? I'll check it later. And these are standard, minor, minor, and standard. So I'm just going to make a note that light is a minor action and that mage hand is also a minor action, just so I don't forget that in the middle of the encounter and give up access to some powers though. There we go, cantrips. Ritual casting, we get the ritual caster feat. So we'll make a note of here. And ritual caster allows us to cast rituals, which we will have to choose some in a second. So we'll, when the time comes, we will go and make those choices and pick out some rituals from later on in the book. We'll talk about those. All right, spell book. So now we get a couple things that we have. You possess a spell book that is filled with mystic lore and will store the rituals as well as our daily and utility spells. So a spell book can hold rituals. You don't need a separate ritual book and a separate spell book. You can put them in the same, but they have 128 pages and the rituals take up a number of pages equal to the level of the ritual. So you got to be mindful of that it's going to, they will take up space, and you can fill up that 128 fairly quickly as you get into even just the mid heroic tier. If you've been as you've been leveling up and if you've been coming into possession of some rituals. So we will get 3 first level rituals of our choice. And then when we choose our daily spells, we will actually get to choose 2 daily spells instead of just 1. So at first level, you usually get 1 daily spell. We will get to choose 2, and we will put them in our spell book. And each day we will choose which of those spells we want to prepare for that day. And that is the spell we have to prepare for that day. And as we level up, we get to choose more daily spells and utility spells. We will always choose an extra one because they go in our spell book. But then the number that we prepare each day is equal to the same number of daily spells that any other character would have. So that's kind of how you, this really harkens back to what you would see in 5th edition, where you have to prepare spells. Same with 3rd edition, even prior editions where a wizard has to prepare spells. You have a spell book that has a larger list of spells that are available to you, but you can only prepare each day a smaller number of them. So that's what our spell book is going to contain, and we will look a little bit more at that when we actually make those selections. And that is the features. Let me just go back here and make a look. So Arcane Implement Mastery, Cantrips, Ritual Casting, Spellbook. There we go. That is our features for our wizard. So now let's take this forward. Let's go, well, here, I'll take a peek back at our character creation so we can see. So we did the race, we did the class. So there's more stuff in here where it talks about choosing your skills, which we already did. We went and chose our skills. Next is the feats, and next is the power. So why don't we go ahead and do it that way. And then we'll, I don't know if it specifically calls out when you select your rituals in here, but I don't see it in here, but at one point we will have to select our rituals because we do get 3 rituals to choose from. So anyway, we did our skills. Let's go ahead and select our feats, and we'll do that part. Now this is one that I did look ahead because there are a lot of feats to choose from, and I was knowing that we were going to be doing an Eladrin, we were going to do a wizard. I was trying to find what would be an appropriate feat to choose for our Eladrin Wizard. And what I found, which is, I think, probably one that makes the most sense, is our expanded spellbook, which you have to have a wisdom of 13, and you have to be a wizard, which we are a wizard. And we get to add an additional daily spell to our spellbook. So this is really cool because anytime we choose a daily spell or a utility spell, we get to add an extra one. Normally we would add 2. Other characters, when you level up and it says choose another daily spell, they would choose 1. We get to choose 2, but now with this feat, we get to choose 3. And so we would add all 3 of them to our spellbook. And then each day we can only prepare 1, but we can only prepare however many we can prepare for that level, based on how many daily spells you would have at a given level. But we have all these ones available to us in our spellbook. So by having that feat, that would allow us to have even more stuff available to us. So we will choose that feat, which is expanded spellbook. And if we go back, I'll make a note of the actual page number that it's on, which it is right here. So that is on page 195. So just so we can quick reference that if we need to. 195. And so that will really help us. We're gonna have a spell book with a lot of really cool spells in it that we can use as we're deciding what we're going to be doing on a given day. And that is our feat. I don't think I have anything else on the feat. Next it wants you to do the ability scores. Now I do need to make note that in order to use that feat, I have to have at least a 13 in my wisdom. So I will have to keep track of that and make sure we don't forget that I have to have a 13 in my wisdom. If we were doing this in order, that wouldn't be an issue because we'd already selected our ability scores. So I know I'm probably making this more confusing than it needs to be, but I just like to save the ability scores for the end. So we have our feat. Now we can go choose our powers. And let's take a look at our wizard powers. So we have our cantrips. Now we have our at-will spells. So our cantrips they're more kind of non-combat type things. If you look at them, you can see that these are not combat things. Mage Hand, Ghost Sound, Light, Prestidigitation. So these are essentially at-will powers that aren't really combat related. So you just get access to them, and they're things that can come in handy while you're adventuring. Then you get your at-will spells, and these are kind of what would be cantrips maybe in other editions of the game. But some of these are actually, I take that back. I think some of these are level 1 spells in other editions of the game. There's one key difference that I'll talk about in a second on one of them. So we get to choose 2 of these as for our first level as our at-will spells. So let me flip over to here where we have a spot here, and we have at-will, and I'm gonna choose Magic Missile, and I'm choosing it mostly because I want to talk about something with it, and that those of you familiar with 4th edition might know what I'm about to talk about. But and then we will do Ray of Frost. So in both cases, these are ones that use our implement. So we would always cast using our wand to cast these 2 spells. And one of them range 20, Ray of Frost is range 10, and they're both intelligence versus another defense. So Ray of Frost is versus fortitude, Magic Missiles versus reflex. Now you say, wait a minute, and this is the thing I want to talk about. Magic Missile historically has been something that auto hits, that you don't actually have to make an attack with it. It just auto hits. In 4th edition, originally, it was now an attack. You actually had to make an attack, and you got a 2d4 plus your intelligence modifier for the damage. So you did decent damage with it. So there was a bit of an uproar because people were happy to complain about anything when it came to 4th edition. This was another thing that they could sink their teeth into. The fact that Magic Missile had been changed, and now you actually had to make an attack. This was changed when I don't know if it didn't change until Essentials, or if they had made a change to it even before then. Usually, most of the games that I'm in, if you're a wizard and you got Magic Missile, it auto hits. It's slightly different. It's not a 2d4 though. I believe it's just a straight like intelligence modifier or something. I don't know for sure. I'll look it up, but if you know and you want to slap that in the comments for reference, please do so. But that is a thing that was kind of a big deal when 4th edition came out, that Magic Missile was no longer an auto hit, and that it was just something that did change. They did take that and say, okay, you're right, we'll fix that. So, but doesn't really matter for us. We're going to select Magic Missile as one of our at-will powers, and until we actually go to use it, it won't make much difference. Next, we get to choose 1 encounter spell: Burning Hands, Chill Strike, Force Orb, Icy Terrain, Ray of Enfeeblement. All of these are intelligence, because as a wizard, that is really our key ability for casting spells. And it really just comes down to what kind of stuff we're going to do. I think they all use our implement. So we would use our wand for them. And the Force Orb is 2d8 damage. The Ray of Enfeeblement is 1d10. Chill Strike is 2d8. So those are going to do slightly bigger damage. This one dazes a target. The Burning Hands just does fire damage. That one dazes a target. This one is nice because it's another attack that you get to make. This one has an effect that makes difficult terrain. And then this one does necrotic damage, and the target is weakened. So I think I'm going to go with... I'm trying to see if it says, because it's orb. You hurl an orb of magical force at the enemy. It doesn't say that that's your implement. That just says it's an orb. So, yeah. So I think we'll go with that. whatever. If I'm breaking a rule there, let me know. Even though it's called Force Orb, I don't believe I have to be wielding an orb, because I don't think I would be throwing my implement at somebody. I think that's just the name of the spell that it is, and I would still be casting that spell with my wand. And we are on page 160 for reference. So that is my encounter power. Now we get to our daily power. So this is, if you remember, we have a spell book. And the spell book allows us to, or as a wizard with our spell book, we get to record an additional daily power into our spell book. So normally we would choose one daily spell, but as a wizard with our spell book, we get to record two daily spells. But if you also remember, we took the expanded spellbook feat, which means based on that, anytime we are going to choose a daily or a utility spell, we actually get to choose an additional one on top of what we could already choose. So we're going to get 3. So we get to choose 3 daily spells right now at level 1 that we can add to our spellbook. So let's go ahead and do that. We will keep this very simple for our purposes. We will do Acid Arrow, and then we will do Flaming Sphere, and I'm going to do Sleep because that's a fun one. So, oops, what did I just do? Acid Arrow. Oh, I typed it in my checkbox here. Oops. Interesting. Now I got to figure out how to get that out of there. All right, well, figure that out later. I didn't hit my tab arrow enough. Let me see if I can tab. I think we got it there. Okay. Acid Arrow, Flaming Sphere, Sleep. So we have, those are the 3 daily spells that at level 1 we have in our spell book. As a level 1 character, we can only use 1 daily spell per day. So at the beginning of each day, we would need to choose which of these daily spells we want to prepare for that day. So let's say we prepare Acid Arrow. Then during the day, we're in an encounter and we decide we're going to cast Acid Arrow. We cast Acid Arrow, and then that daily spell is done. I don't have access to Flaming Sphere. I don't have access to Sleep. I did not prepare those for that day, so I don't have them. The next day, because of where we're going or whatever, I decide, you know what, today I'm going to prepare Flaming Sphere. And during an encounter, I cast Flaming Sphere, and my daily power is done. I don't have access to Acid Arrow. I don't have access to Sleep. I used my 1 daily. So just like in other first level characters, you will have 1 daily power. A wizard also can only each day use 1 daily power. The difference is that those other characters, they only selected 1 daily power. They only have 1 to choose from, and that's the one they can use every day. But as a wizard, you have a spell book, and with our expanded spell book, we got to choose 3 daily spells that we could put in our spell book, and we still can only prepare and use 1 per day, but we have 3 different ones to choose from each day that we can select based on where we think we're going to be going. So it's a little bit of complexity, a little bit of difference for our wizard, but I think it really aligns well with the traditions of Dungeons and Dragons and how spell casting works and how wizards work. So there we go. That's our daily spells. So I don't think it explicitly says it in the character creation section, but this would be a good time for us to also choose our rituals, which would go into our spell book. So we've chosen our powers / spells. But now let's choose our rituals. Our book contains 3 first level rituals of our choice. So let's go ahead and fast forward all the way to the rituals chapter. And let's make a note of what rituals we want to have. So you can see in the table so we basically we're at first level, so they have to be first level rituals, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 first level rituals. We get to choose 3 of them, and there is a key skill. The key skill is the check that you're going to do to do something with this particular ritual, and it will have different effects. It also determines which components you need when you're going to use this ritual. Lots of them use Arcana, which is perfect for us because as a wizard, we are trained in Arcana. If you recall, we are fully trained in Arcana and even get a +2 from our Eladrin. So, we probably want to stick with those. I'm going to take just a quick look. I did not in advance think of any of these, but we're going to choose 3 of them. I am going to do, Let's do comprehend language. I got to do my rituals. There we go. Let's do comprehend language, silence, and Tensor's floating disk. So all of those are pretty interesting. I'll take a peek at them in a second. So comprehend languages is it lasts for 24 hours. Choose a language you have heard or a piece of writing you've seen in the last 24 hours. Using this ritual on a language that you've heard allows you to understand it when spoken for the next 24 hours. And then you can, if it's a language that you have heard and seen as a piece of writing within the past 24 hours, allows you to understand both forms in the next 24 hours. So essentially, it's what you would think. If you've heard the language before, then you can understand it. If you've seen the language before, then you can understand it. If you've done both, then you can see and understand it for the next 24 hours. So if you're exploring things, you're doing some investigation, this could come in handy. It takes 10 minutes to cast and it lasts for 24 hours. So something, this obviously not something that you would do in combat. The rituals are generally things that are not combat related, but they're things that can help you during other phases of the game. The other one that we selected is silence. And this one, get to it, is you ward a single room against eavesdropping. Creatures attempting to listen to something in the warded area take a -10 penalty to perception checks. Again, if you are hiding away and trying to make up a plan, or you've infiltrated a keep and you're guests of the noble, but you need to strategize what you're going to do the next day, you can use silence to kind of make it so that nobody can listen in on what you're saying. It comes in handy. Tensor's floating disk gives you a disk that allows you to carry a certain amount of weight here. And this is one where you have to make a check, and you would make an Arcana check, and depending on the result of the check would determine how much weight the disk can carry. So those are the three rituals we are going to go with for our wizard. All right, that was our choices there for the wizard. Let's go back to character creation and see where we are. So we've chosen our race, we've chosen our class, we've chosen our skills, we've chosen our feats, we've chosen our powers as well as our three rituals. So our spell book is nice and full. Next, we get to choose equipment. And if you remember, if we go back to our wizard, our wizard, then you will see that we don't have a whole lot in the way of proficiencies. We have cloth, armor proficiency, and we have dagger and quarterstaff weapon proficiency, and then we have the three implements. Now, we've already chosen that we are a wand mastery, so we're going to definitely want to have a wand. So that's really all we have to choose from. And if we remind everyone that we have 100 gold to work with. So cloth, dagger, quarterstaff, wand. That's really what we're after here. So let's take a look at our armor first. The best we can do is cloth, and it costs 1 gold. So we will spend our 1 gold and we will get our cloth armor. And that is going to give us no bonus for the basic. So this is just basic. Now, cloth armor is the category. So there's Feyweave armor and there's Starweave armor, but those are different. I'm not going to go into those right now. So we will do just plain cloth armor, which basically means we're not really wearing much of any armor. It does not actually give us any armor bonus. And if you come from older editions of D&D, this is not surprising. Your wizards, in a lot of cases, had very little in the way of defenses and very little in the way of hit points. They were quite fragile. And that kind of fits. I'm only proficient in this cloth armor, which essentially gives me nothing. It costs me 1 gold to just simply not be walking around naked. And then let's look at our weapons. And if you remember, we were proficient in daggers and we were proficient in the quarterstaff. So we're going to have a wand. That's mostly what we're going to do. And I think the quarterstaff is that iconic, Gandalf kind of wizard thing to have this staff. But I think I'm just going to get a dagger. I might get a couple daggers. They're only a gold a piece. And the nice thing is that they can be used. They can be thrown for ranged, or they can be used up close. So I think if we have 2 daggers, that would come in handy for us. So, and we will put a ×2 in there just to indicate that we're going to have 2 of them. And I will go ahead and write up that we have a dagger, and I'm going to do this in two different ways. We're going to have our dagger on here twice. Dagger thrown. So our dagger can be used as a ranged weapon in addition to being a melee weapon. And so for that, it does have a proficiency, and we are proficient with it, and it's a +3 bonus to it. So as our class, we get a +3, proficiency, we get a +3, and that applies to both, whether it's thrown or whether it's used in melee. The damage on it is going to be a 1d4, so I will put that down here. I didn't write in the dagger for this is just a workspace that you can change this as you get other things that you want to calculate. You just kind of fill them in and use it to help you make the calculations, and then you can put the final results like down here or somewhere else, whatever makes sense to you. And then so it's 1d4 damage in both cases, so nothing different there. And then, but for ranged, it's a 5/10. So I will put that. I'm sure there's maybe a better way, but it's just kind of a reference to just remind myself the range. The gist there is that if you if the target is within 5 squares, then it's just a normal. If the target is farther than 5 squares, but not further than 10 squares, then you take a -2 penalty, I believe, to the attack if you're going to throw it that far. And if you try to attack somebody that's beyond 10 squares, you just can't do it. You won't be able to reach. So that's what you get there. They cost 1 gold. They only weigh a pound. It is in the light blade group. It's an offhand and light thrown. So if you want to just take a quick look at what those things mean, it is a light thrown, a ranged basic attack with a light thrown weapon uses your dexterity. Light thrown weapons don't deal as much damage as heavy thrown weapons, but some powers let you hurl several at once in rapid succession. So when we throw it, we can use our dexterity modifier as the bonus for a light thrown weapon if we desire. And then it is an offhand weapon. It is light enough that you can hold it and attack effectively with it while holding a weapon with your main hand. You can't attack with both weapons on the same turn unless you have a power that lets you do so, but you can attack with either weapon. So we can have our wand in one hand and a dagger in the other hand, and we've got the option to be able to use them. So that's what the offhand weapon means. So there we go. We have oh, sorry, that was just our the actual weapon. But then we get into our adventuring gear where we want to choose that we want to have a implement, which is arcane implements right here. And we're going to have a wand, which is going to cost us 7 gold. So we'll just make a note that we have a wand. This is just a basic wand. Doesn't have any magical properties to it. It is just simply a wand that we can use as our implement, and it costs us 7 gold. So we've spent a total of, I believe, we bought 2 daggers. So that's 2, 7, and 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10. We've spent 10 gold. On top of that, we're going to get a standard adventurer's kit. Adventurer's kit. And let's see, is there anything else that we want to get beyond that? I don't think so. I think we'll just keep it at that. So, and that's going to cost 15 gold. So we've spent 25 gold, which leaves us with 75 gold pieces to work with at this point. Not bad. That's one advantage of being a wizard, is that there's not a lot that you have as far as decisions to make when it comes to equipment, because you're not really proficient in very much. So you don't have to spend a whole lot on that sort of equipment there. And we've done a little bit of work on how we would use the dagger. We'll do a little more once we start filling in some numbers on that. And we are getting close to the finish here. Race, class, skills, feats, powers, equipment. Now we can do our ability scores. And one thing we got to remember is that we have we need to have a 13 score for our wisdom in order to use the feat that we got. So we'll want to make sure we keep that in mind. And let's take a look back at our class and remind ourselves of our key abilities: intelligence, wisdom, dexterity. We get a bonus to intelligence. We get a bonus to dexterity. Wisdom would be another good one to have, which we need in order to use that feat that we chose. So that's really where we want to focus our attention. All of our spells that we have are really keyed off of intelligence, so that is clearly going to be the one that we want to have the most with, because our armor does not give us any actual bonus. We're just wearing clothes essentially. The dexterity will come into play to allow us to get a little bit higher armor class than just 10. So all those things in mind, let's go back and take a look at our standard array. In the last video, I used the point buy system and you chose from one of these arrays. That worked okay. I still just like using the standard array. So I'm going to revert back to that. So because intelligence is like the most important one for us, I think without question, I'm going to use the 16 as for our intelligence. And then with the +2 bonus that we get for being an Eladrin, that's going to bump that up to an 18. I need to have at least a 13 in wisdom. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 14 in wisdom, and then I'll put the 13, I'll put the 13 in dexterity. And then that makes, with the +2 bonus, that makes it 15. So we're just working our way down. So we've assigned the 16, the 14, and the 13. Now we have 12, 11, and 10. And I think Constitution is always a good one to have something that would give you a bonus, because that's what you use for your hit points and such. So we'll go ahead and put the 12 into Constitution. We will put the 11 into Strength, and we will put the 10 into Charisma. We're not going to be a particularly friendly to talk to person. And there we go. That's our ability scores. Now, next we can calculate our modifiers, and that's what this table right here is for. The 11 is going to have a 0. Constitution will have a 1. Dexterity will have a 2. Intelligence will have 4. Wisdom will have 2. And Charisma will have 0. Since we are just at first level, our modifier plus half level will just still be the same as what we had just calculated, because half of 1 is 0.5 and you always round down. And so that results in a 0. And there you go. And now we can start filling out some of these numbers. And we're going to take the higher of these two numbers and we're going to put that over here as our ability. And that's going to be a 1. And then we'll take the higher of these two, and that's that ability, and that will be a 4. And then the higher of these two is that, and that's going to be a 2. And then we don't have any other bonuses to go in, so we get to add 10 plus half our level, which will just be 10. And there are those defenses. For our armor class, we have 0 for our armor, but because we're using light armor, we also get to add our dexterity to it. And so the armor itself gives us 0, but the dexterity that we have is a 2. And so we get to use a 2 for that. And then 10 plus half level, which means our armor class is 12. So this character does not want to be near where the enemies are. Make sure all of your defenders are between you and the bad guys. For initiative, our dexterity is a 2. So that's going to bump our initiative up to a 2 as well. Our half level is 0. So nothing extra there. For speed, we have a base speed of 6. We have with just the cloth armor, we don't have any penalties or anything, so our speed will remain as a 6. And if we come down to our hit points, remember it's 10 plus our Constitution score. Our Constitution score is 12, which means our max hit points is 22. And then the surges per day is going to be 6 plus our Constitution modifier, which is a 1, which means our surges per day is going to be a 7. The bloodied is half of our max hit points. That makes that 11. And surge value is 1/4 of our max hit points, or half of our bloodied value, which would rounded down would be a 5. We will get 1, not 41, just the 1 action point. And then our skills have auto calculated. So it took all those ability modifiers from up above and put them in down here. So these are now our skills. You can see we are quite handy when it comes to Arcana and with history. A little less so with insight and perception. And then once you get down into things that require charisma, we don't really have much of anything to offer there. So the two passive skills are insight and perception. And these are used by the dungeon master so that as you're exploring somewhere or you're in some sort of social encounter where it's important to understand if somebody's lying, or you're trying to see or hear something that's down the hallway from where you are, you don't want to always have to roll a check for those things. The dungeon master might want to just know what is your, if you're out and about, what is your insight? How insightful are you? How perceptive are you? That's what these scores are. So these would be used by the dungeon master to make those determinations so that can kind of keep things interesting by not requiring you to roll every time something needs to be checked. So, but you're 17 in both of those. This character is pretty good in both of those categories. And working our way down, I think we are down to just our damage workspaces now. So for the attacks for our dagger, so for a melee attack, it's going to be, so the half level is 0. The ability is going to be our strength, which is also a 0. So the only thing we have is our proficiency. So the attack bonus, if we're going to stab someone with the dagger in a melee attack, it's just going to be a +3. If we're going to throw the dagger between up to 5 squares or as many as 10 squares, then we get to add our dexterity to it. And because it is a light thrown weapon, and our dexterity is going to be a 2, so we will get to add the 2 there, which means, so if we throw the dagger, we actually can get a +5 bonus by throwing the dagger, which can be nice. And then for the damage on both of those, so we, again, if you're stabbing with the dagger, you get to add the ability modifier, but for our strength, that is 0. So it's just going to be a 1d4 if you manage to hit with that. But the dagger, that is our, if we throw with it, we get to use our dexterity again, and that is going to be a 2. So it's going to be a +1d4 +2 as our attacks with the dagger. And so those are your basic attacks. If you did have to actually make an attack with the daggers that you're carrying, but generally this character is going to be using the wand and casting their spells. So let's go back to those spells and let's have a look at what we've got. Now your go-to powers are going to be your at will. So that's really what we want to kind of put here. So let's go ahead and do magic missile. Okay. And I'm not going to put in the attack and the damage because I'm going to go with the rule that was likely homebrewed when 4th edition was released and everybody was upset about the fact that magic missile required you to make an attack. Well, we'll just argue that most people probably just homebrewed it and said, no, it auto hits. And other people, within some period of time, I don't know if it was just with Essentials or if it came out sooner, where they changed it and it auto hit again. I believe the only thing though, is that it wasn't a 1d4 plus intelligence. I believe the damage was just your intelligence modifier. Once they made that change, you simply got your intelligence modifier. Again, if anybody knows for sure, I'll look it up too, but please do put that in the comments to correct me if that is incorrect, but I believe that's what they did. That's what I'm going to do here. The other at-will attack that we have is Ray of Frost. So I'm going to write that one here. Now this one is our intelligence versus the opponent's fortitude. So our intelligence is going to be, it's going to be a +4 for our intelligence, but we are, I guess that's it, because we don't have, I don't know that there is a proficiency bonus with the wand. So because it's not a magic wand or anything, we just have a wand. So I believe it's still going to just be a +4 versus the fortitude of the enemy. And if we look at Ray of Frost, the damage that you're going to deal is 1d6 plus your intelligence modifier. So we can write that down here as 1d6 plus 4 in our case, because that's what our intelligence modifier is. And that is our damage that we would deal with Ray of Frost. I don't usually write down all of the other ones because these are encounters and dailies, and so it can be more complicated, and there's conditional things that come in, and as you get more of them, you're obviously only have spaces for 4 here. You could put them somewhere else on the character sheet if you want, but these are your at wills basically for the life of your character. So these are the ones you're always going to be using. They're your go-to powers to when you're in a combat encounter. So there you go. And I think that's it. I think we've covered everything that we have. I obviously did not put all the page numbers that we would have. I hope I didn't skip over anything important. And I think the key thing with the wizard is that we talk about how the characters in 4th edition are so similar. And what we're really saying is that it's the character creation process, the way you play the characters is similar. The notion of powers, and that you get at wills and you get encounters and you get dailies, and the construction of these characters is very similar. And hopefully as we went through this, you saw that it was mostly the same as what we saw with our other characters, but there were differences. because it's a wizard and it's a spellcaster, you got these cantrips that you don't have in other cases. You have a spell book that you don't have in other cases. And so that made the wizard just a little more interesting and kept it in line with what you would have in other editions of the game. So if you're playing a wizard from 5th edition or 3rd edition or 2nd edition, you have certain things that you come to expect. And you see some of those same things in your wizard in 4th edition as well, because of that spell book, because of the rituals and the cantrips and stuff. So it is there, you still have that special flavor that makes a wizard something different, but the mechanics of it are a lot more easy to follow and much more similar to other characters that you might create. And it makes it so it's a lot more approachable for somebody who's maybe new to the game and is interested in playing a wizard, but you don't have all this extra complexity that you get with the other editions. And so that's my feeling on it anyway. So I think it's really nice how you can have these wizards that are, I just think it's something that even a new player could play a wizard fairly easily. So, but that is our Eladrin Wizard. As I said, I will try to at some point get this up on the website so that we can build out this party. And then once I have all 5 characters, I just got one more to go and I'm still working out what that character might be. Then I can start getting into some demos where we'll use those characters to really kind of show off some of the mechanics of how you would run combat or run different situations, even not in combat, to show you how all that goes down. So, but let me know what you think. If I missed something, if I glossed over something too quickly, or if something's confusing, please ask the questions in the comments as well. We'll try to get some folks to answer those. I'm sure people will be happy to assist. I will help as I can as well. So, but I hope you found that helpful. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the description for other ways you can help by either becoming a member of the channel or becoming a member in Ko-fi if you want to join the Discord server. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Until next time, take care.